What is going on, guys? It's Spud here, and welcome to episode 74 of the Roundup. And in today's episode, we're talking ROSTERMANIA. There's been so much going on um, in the CDL after Major 3. Quite a lot of changes. We've had trades happen, which you don't really see very much, but we've had a trade between Gentlemates and G2. So Estrel is now on Gentlemates and Envoy's on G2. Nasty's left Boston Breach to join G2. Insight benched himself, but now he's back in the starting lineup. Abe was almost in the Koi starting lineup. There's a lot to talk about. Um, and also we're gonna talk about the F1 Esports finale in Abu Dhabi as Otis Lawrence had to wait to see what the penalties were gonna say, but he is the 2026 F1 Esports World Champion. His first championship, so congratulations to the Welsh lad. If you are new, please do. Sorry, I need that fan on. It is warm. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. It is free and it helps you out a lot. And if you are new also, even if you're not new, like the video if you enjoy. And yeah, let's get into it. There's a lot to talk about. So we're going to start with Surge, as you can see, that we're going to start to rebuild. So they wanted to keep Lunas, and they were going to keep Nero, and Gwyn and TJ, who obviously had a couple of years together on the Royal Ravens, are out of the team. Obviously, Gwyn has not had a good season since his rookie year. His rookie year, he was genuinely really good, and obviously I made a full episode on the roundup as to why he should be rookie of the year. Um, and I stick by that. Obviously, I do think that he was really good that year, but he has struggled and obviously hasn't won anything. It's not really looking great for Gwyn in his future in the league, but obviously as of right now, he's not on a team. He'll have to go back to challengers. So there was a few players that Surge were looking at. Um, in the end, they managed to get Craze, who was on the Carolina Royal Ravens, as he's been dropped. And they pick up Mamba, who obviously has been replaced on G2 by Nasty. But we'll talk about all of this as we get up each article. Obviously, shout out to Ronnie. So the target for Surge and the player that they end up actually getting is Standy. Now, Standy hasn't been in the league since the end of Modern Warfare 3. When he was on Minnesota Rocker. So it's been a while, but Standy is back in the league. Obviously, he's only going to be for Major 4 and potentially WC. Surge are not making champs. Um, Obviously, every game is so important for these teams now, but unless they make a run at the Major, I don't think they're going to make champs. We'll have to see how Standy does. If he had joined the Surge, because obviously he hasn't joined the Surge. He has joined. I'm pretty sure he hasn't joined the Surge. He joined the Royal Ravens. Anyway, Gentlemates were looking originally, before they went for Estrel, they were looking at Nasty, and they were going to put Sib on the SMG, and Envoy was going to get dropped. Envoy was always the weak spot of this team. He had been for the entire stint since entire Major 2, Major 3 stint, since winning Major 1. So it's not really a surprise as to why he's been dropped. Obviously, it is Paris have the event next, and obviously now have EWC, so there's going to be a lot of Gentlemates fans at those events, and they'll want to see their team win, and they'll probably believe that they have a good chance of winning if they can pick up their Major 1 form, which obviously is going to be quite difficult to do, but have to see what happens. Then we have to talk about Cloud9 because they've dropped Orcus, fair enough, for an 18-year-old called Weavy or Wevy. The problem is Cloud9 will not pay his buyout clause, so he's having to pay half of it himself. That's $500 for an 18-year-old to pay just to play on a professional team. It's poverty. Hopefully Cloud9 leave after this season and never come back. Obviously, unfortunately for Royal Ravens, it was sorry for Fire and Bush, it was a similar situation where Fire had to pay half of his salary, half of his buyout just to play on the Royal Ravens. But yeah, Orcus hasn't really had a good stint. in the league, but again, they were all thrown in the deep end, the Cloud9 players. They knew what they were signing up for. It was always going to be difficult. They've had a good experience, I would say. But back to challenges, where hopefully they can learn a bit more. Gentlemates were looking to sign a substitute. I don't know if I mentioned this. People were saying it was fake. They wanted Ethan, who was on one of the challengers teams at the Pro-Am, but obviously visa issues happened. So yeah. So then Surge ended up targeting Craze and Mamba. So obviously Standy was originally the target. They ended up looking for Craze and Mamba. Obviously they were together on the Ormit team at EWC last year. Obviously Craze started off the season quite well. You know, he was up there for Rookie of the Year in the first few weeks. Did drop off. Mamba again the same. I think he dropped off quite a bit. But G2 are looking to have a strong upgrade, which is what they've got. But then Gentlemates have decided to try and get Estriel and trade Envoy to G2 in the process, which is what ended up happening. And for me, this was the biggest trade. This was the biggest move of the ROSTERMANIA. You know, Estriel's been in the league now since MW3, where, you know, people are, who's Estriel? Like, who's this guy that's the Minnesota Rocker have picked up? And you know what? Was he even on the Rocker first? No, he was on Gentleman. Sorry, LAG. LAG picked him up, and this was a poverty move, you know. And he ended up doing all right on LAG, and then he went to Minnesota Rocker he went to G2, sorry, for the World Cup, Esports World Cup, and then was on Minnesota Rocker last year, and then obviously they've changed the name now to G2. And he was on G2 this season, and it was G2's best player comfortably. And I obviously think this is a really good move for Estriel to get onto the Gentlemen. I think he deserves it. He's had a really good season. I have to see how he does, obviously. He's going to be playing with teammates that are obviously have won championships. So obviously Neptune, Sib and Gorsi all won events. Gorsi won 2 events last year. Sib won an event 2 years ago with New York Subliners. They're all champs finalists, bar Gorsi, and obviously Estriel. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he does. Obviously Nasty joined Boston Breach in the off season. Which was a bit of a surprise because he had a really good season with Surge, but just couldn't get himself onto a top team. Hasn't worked out for him, and you know what? Credit to Boston Breach, and Nasty said this when he put his leaving post out. Boston Breach let him explore his options and let him leave because they obviously knew that he wanted to be on a better team. He wants to be trying to get to champs, stuff like that, which fully understand. Unfortunately for Boston Breach, they've replaced him with TJ Halley. He's had such a bad season. I don't know how he's still in the league, but TJ Halley is going to be on the Boston Breach instead of Nasty, which I think means Purge is going to be on the AR. Yeah, Boston aren't making champs anyway. I think the Breach people knew that, so they're happy to let Nasty explore his options. Their season's a write-off. And yeah, obviously good luck to Nasty. He's going to be on G2's team. Obviously, they thought it was going to be a different team. There's been a couple of teams that were looking at him, Gentlemates, I believe Koi as well. We'll obviously do our predictions after we've talked about the Rostermania stuff. Now, this is the one we have to talk about. Toronto Koi looking to bring Abe back, and I'm thinking, all right, okay, Insight statistically has not played well, but Koi got third place, and personally bringing Abe in for Insight is not going to change that. They're not going to be able to become a better team. But Insight basically benched himself. They were going to get Abe back in because they weren't able to get Nasty or something. I don't know if that Nasty thing's true or if I've made that up. Anyway, Abe then put a post out, a video saying, you know, he thanks Koi obviously for the potential chance to play for them again because obviously he's a substitute, but he's going to stay on the Challengers team Bush gaming, which is kind of crazy. Obviously, Bush are a huge part of the Challengers scene and a massive breath of fresh air in the Challenger scene, but that would be crazy. It sounds like the reason that Abe turned it down is because he would only be playing until they could get a replacement, so he would only potentially be in the team for one weekend, and I can completely understand why he's not chose to do that. But then Insight is now back in the lineup. It's just like stick with insight for the rest of the season and then decide. Like, what are they doing? It's very, very silly from Kai. Um, but it is good that Abe got the opportunity. I think he did the right decision not to accept it for one weekend, especially when he's on like such a good challengers team. But there we go. And then G2 and Gentlemates obviously finalised their trade deal. Did I make it up that Standy's on a team? I thought Standy replaced Craze on the Royal Ravens, but I guess I have got a list of all the ROSTERMANIA moves. So I can check that. But yeah, a good move for Gentlemates. G2, I think Envoy can show something on G2. Obviously, Envoy, Kremp, Skies and Nasty. We'll have to see how they do, but Envoy will have something to prove. So Nasty hasn't been officially announced for G2 yet, I don't think. But Nasty has been. Obviously, the Boston Breach move he's left Boston. Oh no, I was right. So Standy is on Royal Ravens. Obviously, Surge wanted him originally, but Royal Ravens got rid of Craze. Ultimately, we're like Surge can have Craze. We're gonna have Standy. So this is all the roster mate. This is going into Major Four. The amount of I've never seen so many rosters. The only teams that have stuck all season are Falcons, Optic, FaZe, and Heretics. Every other team has had a change. I mean, going into this event, we've got TJ Halley, Standy, Envoy Nasty, Wavy, Estriel, Craze Mammoth. So 8 changes. It's been interesting to see such a lot of roster moves this year. Um, Seen a lot more players. Wait, I've just thought. So obviously Wevy, he's going to be a new rookie for the Rookie of the Year ladder. Obviously he ain't going to get on the Rookie of the Year ladder. Like he might get in the top 10, but obviously we know that it's going to be Nwim now or Kips if Kips can have a good event in Major 4. That is all your roster mania. Um, that's all the roster mania moves. So obviously there's been quite a lot. Um, in my opinion, the best move is Estrel to Gentlemates on Voter G2 trade. I like that. I think the worst move, honestly, is TJ Hallett at Boston Breach, and I'm not gonna defend. I'm not gonna say anything about Webby because I don't know who he is. Anyway, let's get our predictions sorted. Just load that up. We've got we've got 10 matches this weekend. Also, sorry, minor two is next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend. First match of Major 4 qualifiers, Koi versus Carolina. All these matches are massive for the teams fighting for champs qualification. Um, I'm gonna go Koi 3-1. I think that obviously Koi might be a bit on the ropes because obviously the insight, like putting himself on the bench and then playing again, could affect the morale a bit. I'll go 3-1 Koi. G2 versus Cloud9. This is a huge game for both teams, but G2 I think will win this one 3-1. Vancouver Surge versus Optic, obviously new look Surge. Optic are going to 3-0 them though, I would expect. And then Saturday we have Thieves versus FaZe. That's a lovely game to start off Saturday. I'm going to go 3-1 to LA Thieves though. Gentlemates versus Royal Ravens. I'm going to go 3-0 Gentlemates and Estrel MVP. It's my prediction. Get the French crowd excited. Surge versus Breach. This is a huge game actually. Wait, I'm trying to think. Who's the other player on Breach? Sorry, on Surge with Nero. Oh, it's Lunas, isn't it? That's who I'm thinking of. This is a tough one to predict. I'm gonna go game 5. And I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Surge 3-2. Falcons versus Heretics as well to finish the Saturday off. I'm going to go with Heretics 3-2, another game 5. Then we have Falcons Gentlemates, not a bad game. I'm actually gonna go 3-1 Falcons. So I think they'll lose to Miami in a game 5, but they'll beat Gentlemates. Optic versus Heretics, this one is actually gonna go to the wire. And you know what? I'm gonna go 3-2 Miami. I think Heretics are gonna shock Optic here. I think Super's gonna have a super game 5. Cloud9 versus Boston to finish off the weekend. That's some game. Okay, why not? Let's go 3-1 Cloud9. I don't know if I've ever predicted Cloud9 to win except against Rocky Sports. Was it in the Major 3? I'm gonna go Cloud9 3-1. I'm just gonna show you the oh, that's the wrong thing. Standings. That's what I want to show. Just want to show the standings. So obviously the top 4 are fine. I'd say Koi are fine as well. Obviously there's a huge gap. Cloud9, I'm pretty sure, are already out of contention unless they win all 5 games, win the minor. If they win all 5, the minor, if you could win the minor tournament as one of these lower end teams, like 9th to 12th, 20 CDL points is quite big, especially for Royal Ravens. I think it's going to be the top 8 that it is now that qualify, but obviously the order could be a bit different. I think Optic will go into it as first seed. Obviously, unfortunately, haven't won an event this year. I think Thieves will be second seed. FaZe will be third seed, and I think Koi will be fourth seed, and then Gentlemate's fifth seed, and then I think it'll be Heretics, Falcons, G2. I was also saying, did G2 not have a game? But they did. Did. I confused myself for a second there. Anyway, we're going to talk about F1 esports now. There might be a few more people that will watch this video because of this bit, so I'll tell them when this bit is, obviously. So, obviously they do 12 rounds. This was the last round. It was in Abu Dhabi. It's all on land these days, which is good. And it's Alpine's Otis Lawrence that takes the Drivers' Championship. The Team Championship was won by Red Bull, which is obviously last year's winner, Freddie Rasmussen, and Jarno Opmeer. And then obviously they have a third driver, which is Sebastian Job, but he didn't race. It was always Freddie and Jarno. So well done to Red Bull and to Otis. Ismail Afassi won the last race, and obviously he could have become champion if Otis Lawrence didn't get like a certain result. So obviously there was an incident between Otis Lawrence and Ismail Afassi in the race, which then people were waiting to see what the stewards were going to give after the race. So there wasn't too much celebrations on the side of Otis Lawrence just yet.
It's an Ismail Afassi is going to come over the line to win 3 races in a row, and he comes out of the final corner.
So obviously he's really happy because he thinks there's a chance he could win the title. 3 wins in a row as well is really impressive. But Otis Lawrence got P5, and that was enough to become champion. Joni Tormula got 2 points, by the way. Fair enough for Joni Tormula. He's been in F1 esports for as long as I've lived. But this was the reaction.
This moment, he still didn't know. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and finally the standings, Kai, read Otis Lawrence, champion.
The Welsh Dragon roars for the first time in F1 sim racing.
And there's his engineer Tomek. Now, the reason I know he was engineer is just because I was gobsmacked when I seen the broadcast yesterday. And obviously, Tomek used to be the F1 esports driver I watched the most, him and Nicholas Longer. But then obviously he stopped racing. But he's back in the scene, and obviously, yeah, Otis is the champion. So well done to Otis. This was how close it was on the standings. So yeah, obviously, if he finished P6, I think Fassi had more race wins, so would have won the championship. Obviously, teams championship. I mean, Barry Burman only got 58 points. Thomas Ronhar got 56 points this season. I've not really paid any attention. Oh, they won it by 3 points. I've not really been paying attention to the championships and that. You don't really get much money in F1 esports. That's the thing compared to like that's the thing with F1 esports is not like the money in it is horrendous compared to like CS or COD or Siege or League of Legends or Valorant or Dota, you know? It's like a D tier esports. I think you get more money for winning the Constructors' Championship than the drivers. And this is the moment he lifted the trophy. Well done to Otis. That must be a great feeling. I remember when I'm pretty sure I played against Otis Lawrence in a Call of Duty lobby once. There was someone called Otis Lawrence. And I'm pretty sure it was him. So yeah, I've played against the F1 2026 Sim Racing Champion in Call of Duty before, and I'm pretty sure I owned him. But yeah, that is the end of this episode of the Roundup. So next week, obviously, we have got episode 75. That's mental. Next week will be our predictions for Minor One, and obviously looking at this week's matches that happen at the weekend. Hopefully, you enjoy those matches. Have some good Call of Duty action. Thank you so much for watching, though. I do really appreciate it. If you did enjoy, please like the video and subscribe if you're new. And see you next time. Bye for now.